Well, I'm glad you could drop in. I am Peter Fox from St Edward's Castle, Donington, and this is Jimbo. Jimbo doesn't talk much, but that reminds me. Have you looked in the mirror lately? Yes, Jimbo's going to go now. Off you go, Jimbo. Go on, fly, little birdie. Yeah, right. Well, miracles come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. When you look in the mirror, you're looking at a miracle. I mean, really, it is a miracle. You should take another look. The miracle is that you are the result of not just decades, not just centuries, not just millennia. What you're looking at when you look in the mirror is the product of millions of years of changes and chances. What Terry Pratchett calls the left trouser leg of time. People going that way instead of that way. I mean, look at your own life. Just think about your own life. Think about where you are at this moment as you're listening to me, and think about the different things that have happened in your life. The things, the decisions you made that brought you to be where you actually are at this moment, living where you live, living with whom you live. All of those things throughout your life have brought you to where you are now. Which bus you caught on a particular day can determine the whole of your future. Which people you meet and which people you don't. The choices you make and the choices that are made for you all came together until you look in the mirror and it's you that you see. And it begins even earlier than that, long before you yourself had any say in the matter. Think about your parents. If they had not met when they did, if you had been conceived at a different time or a different place, you would be a completely different person. Your genetic structure would be different. If your parents had been other than the people they were, you would have been someone else. You would not be you. Once you start to think about that, once you start to think about all the things, and there are more than we can count, the things that actually made you who you are and when you are, once you turn the clock back, you realise that it's much more staggering even than you'd suppose. Once upon a time, there were about 10,000 Homo sapiens, our early ancestors. 10,000. I mean, earlier than that, there were fewer. But this one particular point, that 10,000 Homo sapiens basically chose to turn right instead of left. And if they'd made the other decision, they would have been extinct. They took the route that helped them survive the climatic changes of thousands and thousands of years ago. When our ancestors first walked the earth, there were other versions of human around the place still. I mean, there were Neanderthals, for instance. There was Homo erectus. Homo erectus had been around about 2 million years, and he was still around when our ancestors, Homo sapien, emerged. The Neanderthals are still around. They'd been around for about 350 years before we ever arrived on the scene. They were still there. And there was even one little variant. They call him the Hobbit in homage to Tolkien's character, but actually he was this very short version of a hominid, a little person, and his proper name is Homo floresiensis. So he probably prefers Hobbit. It's a bit easier to put on your checks. Anyway, he didn't last that long, only about 85, 83, something like 1,000 years. They were all around when our first ancestors were around, but they've gone. Well, all but maybe there's a little bit of Neanderthal, 2% of us, perhaps. but that's it otherwise. We don't quite know where they went or how they went. We just know that we survived. So far, we've survived about 200,000 years. How long do you think we've got? Will we be here longer than the Neanderthals, do you think? Only time will show. The point is, our species survived. And when you look at its survival, what you're looking at is a whole range of changes and chances. Do we turn right? Do we turn left? Which Homo sapiens survive? And all of that led to you, to the person you are, to the being you are. When you look in the mirror, you're looking at a miracle. Now, I know that there are a lot of people, particularly some religious people, and I know, including some Christians, who find this whole idea of evolution very threatening. You know, they have a different kind of view of things. They see the first couple of chapters of Genesis as being a kind of literally accurate description of how God made the world. And I understand that, I do, I really understand it, but I must respectfully disagree. Because Genesis isn't talking about how, it's talking about who made it all happen. Evolution is how. It's how God did it. And I think it's a wonderful thing. I think evolution is a wonderful mark of the wisdom and power of God. Evolution, I think, is a very good thing, and I think we should support it. Because evolution is where we are now, where we arrived, and why you look in the mirror and see the person you are. I know, too, that there are people who think the whole thing is just chance. I don't agree with that either. I think every step of the way was part of the plan, part of God's wonderful plan. And when you look in the mirror, you too are part of God's wonderful plan. He wanted you to be here. And right through those millions of years, everything moved forward for a moment when you would be here. And now it's up to us what happens next. What are the changes and chances we will initiate that will determine where the wonderful adventure takes us next. God bless. Jimbo, what are you doing? Oh, for goodness sake.